All right, everyone, we are live. You're all doing okay out there? My name is Richard Millett, the one and only. And this is the quarantine stream, the 55th one. And now let us hear the ever beautiful, ever wonderful, ever lovely, ever green quarantine stream theme, shall we? Beautiful. Hope you're all doing okay out there. Hope you are getting vaccinated, as I have been saying every week. If it is good enough for Jack Grisham and Jella Biafra, then it is good enough for you. So yeah, hopefully you're all doing the smart thing. So many possibilities. Sometimes I watch these back and I get really annoyed when I take a really long time to get into the first poem. But until then,
Simulacrum.
Yes. Yeah, I think that to say there's, and I'm going to speak in terms that are so overreaching that they will be basically meaningless, thus making this a completely pointless thing to say in the first place. But I will say it anyway, and that is, there's a bad version of everything. You can have all sorts of wonderful ideas. If human beings have proven anything, it's that you can basically have a perverse, like you can pervert the spirit or meaning of virtually everything, and that is the folly of humankind, I suppose, or one of the follies. But the ability to create the stupid version of everything is remarkable. So, never ceases to amaze me how human beings do that. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first piece, shall we? This is called Transformacion. The gold wing, gold leaf, ivory elevator door is open to reveal a portrait of an orchard, saying, "This wicker basket contains every memory you've ever had. So if you've got a purple number, come over, pull out a slip and start to reminisce." Me and my sister playing parlor tricks in the back seat while Dad turns up the radio to drown us out. Then he leads down, increasing speed on the way to the dog show. Come over, and pull out another favorite. Semi-finalists and the quarterfinals of our school district's annual spelling bee, and I got here on an easy word: charisma. Afterward, we went out for ice cream cake, even though my mom wanted bagels instead. We let her hold the trophy as something of a meta text consolation prize. Transformacion. The baby blue lagoon gull wing elevator doors open to a balloon crooning in a soprano profundo. Today you're in the classroom sitting in between a magic wand and a sprinkler, behind a rhinoceros and in front of a stethoscope, ready to make toothpaste out of erasers, lipstick, and hairspray. Today you're in the classroom and your substitute teacher is Adeline, a 102-year-old oak tree, and you're making birthday presents for her best friend. You are ready to make nylons out of eyeliner and passport pages filled with stamps of horse-shaped signatures enters Transformacion. The pleated red vinyl elevator doors open to reveal a singing taxi. Today it's your birthday, and you get breakfast in bed served on a star-shaped black and white television set, blinking lights on the pillow heads, milk on a blue and white dress. Today it's your birthday, and you get a pink and blue book with blank pages to fill in with drawings of budgies and juice boxes, rainbows over razors, crisp bubblegum in between mint baseball cards, the gull wing gold leaf. Ivory elevator doors open to reveal a porch of an orchard transplanted to a beach. Today, you are taking a surfboard out of a small bus while watching a girl pick up a wallet that fell out of her purse. While your head is glass, your arms are oars, and your hands are rafts. Today, you're making videos on the boardwalk of people roller skating while holding umbrellas or eating ice cream off towels, while your mouth is a string swimming in circles while daylight is young, and they intend to dream of visiting a plan full of pleasant fling, tones rhyming ever so tinnily and wranglily in something misheard and turned into a quiet joke among monks, and either Brething ein fell. It's a particular favorite of mine. Just feel it. Magic. Are you ready? It's time to listen. Don't you hate when I do this shit? I'm sure this is like really fucking exciting right now, huh? I should have thought this out better. Oh well. You don't come here for this, right? You come here for the poetry, for the experience. Just feel it. Okay. I think that's good. This is a particularly long pause. I am really testing people's patience. Jesus Christ. All right. This is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. God damn. Sympathy for the Cowboy. All alone on the range. After the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the Cowboy, holding his dying brother, who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish minimum wage and charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue they're right. Doesn't everyone? Sympathy for the victim who already has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the neutralized and those speaking to themselves in the corner, wasting their lives rotting out what's left of their tiny little linear minds. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory, in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the lawsuit and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free and too wild to ride. Sympathy for the motherfucker who tried, his wife cried, him and his foolish bride. Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy and, of course, doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist, sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one, even if it takes them all night. Sympathy for the cowboy whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon if there's no change of plans. It's called Parallel Place. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied men clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. This is called Submerging. It's from a book I did. It's now 10 years old. Well, I wrote it 10 years ago. I put it out 9 years ago. Funnily enough, I wrote it 10 years ago. I actually, in my memory, thought of the idea for the book in 2009, but it actually turns out I actually thought of it in 2007. But I wrote a couple pieces for it in 2009 and sketched it out. Wrote it in a week in summer of 2011 and then put it out a year later. I waited a year to put it out for various reasons. But it's a book I like a lot. So, by the way, if you are ever curious, you can go to fluxlifeinc.com and you can go to the book section and all of it is there. Many, many, many hours to go through the various collected works. There's a lot there. If you like any of this, if you like what I do, there's plenty more. This is called Submerging. My thoughts stop. My muscles go slack. I sink into the gray water. I rise, pick up shells, and see something inside. I see a spotlight bathed in cream, a turtle swimming slowly, and bioluminescent plankton out past the reef. I am not the follower. I have nothing to prepare for. I am not the leader. I've got no form. At this moment, I'm no one's son, except for my father's father's father. My head stays underneath. No new oxygen, but for the time being, I've got all that I need. I'm not the follower. I've got nothing to wait for. I'm not the leader. I'm just being born. At this moment, I am no one's son, except from my mother, the clouds, the sun, the land, the water. All is one. All is one. I have come. All is one. Open reach. All is one. To infinity. All is one. Circle soul. All is one. Bird's beak. All is one. Silver seed. All is one. We have come. This is called Canary Milk, from a book I did in 2019 called Citizenship. Sweltering sun in the forecast, but it's raining right now. Retired teens nostalgic for holograms as their granddads watch rocks roll on the ground and wonder when they can be farmers in glass pods on Mars. While Amanda eats factory fresh candies and laughs jaggedly at vulgar stories. The boy who awoke in the toy aisle one evening moved more elegantly than his mother had ever seen as he picked items off a worn, well-folded list before deciding he'd rather have a pet eel instead. While Amanda watches her neighbors bickering and daydreams the deleted scenes from their past. The delivery man is ready for the weekend as he ignores reports on the European heat wave, instead marveling about the new house on his route and how much it must cost each month to keep the swans fed and the water in the lagoon fresh. While Amanda feels no urgency to call back her agency and laughs at people voluntarily photographing their chores. This is called 3% Profit. Waking up to the sun-soaked world in the eyes of a diamond stretching out from a full circle, I was at a recital resting on a bed of feathers and then floated to the front of the festivities. I Mercury step leap through the lake and land in a leafy soft meadow, my legs a blurring winding wheel. My mom and dad hold out boxes. They walk together to an airplane, then climb up and run across the wings. But soon it's nice and quiet for me, as we can plainly see. I tied a string around an anteater, as we can plainly see. The newspaper says it's better to have metal teeth, as we can plainly see, but I would rather bathe in butter, as we can plainly see. I nicked a little bit of a hammer and nail on my way onto the helicopter, where I knew if physics sped up my entrance, never seen the sky be so brave and wide, or thought about the joy in watermelons. And when I carefully left the step stool and went into the underground ice tunnel, I ran across a humidifier so the motor could keep my feet warm and not get harmed by frostbite. My eyes hide behind a pregnant woman's stomach while a laser rings into my ears. I try to open a case of sewing supplies, but to my surprise, the latch is banded shut. I breathe yellowed air and drink bubbling water and play with friends who live in the shower. I put a cold stream of thoughts in a brown paper bag and wonder where I can tap the telephone. I freeze my face in photos so that I'm not recognized while I page through my scrapbooks. The bugs and the cracks decline my invitations to dance, so therefore they're unwanted. I hiss into the sink until they crawl back, so that my party can stay filled with levity, and not too much gravity, so I paste my Polaroids all over the walls in geometric patterns, and steal some dinner from my next-door neighbor, as it's their fault for having given me a key. My sleeves festooned with pins and wind chimes dangle a jangle announcing my arrival. A curl in the best nest with an arm that won't do you harm, an idol vibrating on a whirring appliance, as we can plainly see. And soon I'm ready to eat, nothing moving suddenly, as we can plainly see. And even sooner still, time to sleep. Here's to a night of pleasant dreams, as we can plainly see. I have performed this one before, a few times. I feel it's not. Let me rephrase that. How much I like this one. Um, no, let me rephrase that. Uh, Given how much I like this piece, there we go. I should theoretically have performed. I should theoretically perform it more often, and yet I don't.
Simulacrum. 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 Simulacrum.
This is called Horse. Let's share the silence while everyone is absent. With the electricity out, it's unknown if the edges can be seen. Thin line. Take off your clothes and let's find out if you're purple. Supine, time to get reserved by disengaged, dreary people. I'm optimistic enough to whisper in your ear, vanish into the walls, and watch you walk to the chair. Let's share the silence, test the power of my stare, and the limits of your willingness, then pretend we're unaware when you stand in front of the mirror and all the stringent reasons why you're really here. I'm clear enough to stand near the back, not against your thigh, to avoid glancing at your eyes. Let's share the silence, ease into your patience, measuring what each instant takes, seconds after the temperature breaks, and staying anxiously awake, while the next 7 minutes are advanced into minute facets, slipping across conjoined elements. I'm open enough to adjust the embryo window, your tight spine, your consent, the tension kept sacrosanct. This is called the invisible synthesizer. The plane lands by the grace of the titanium hand. A fog of whispers dissolves over a stack of prayer stones. A stiffened spine completely covered in sea foam. Closet full of striped clothes coated in cast iron. The titanium hand has no stains or scars. The titanium hand instantly uprooting thunder from clouds. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. The plane ascends by the grace of the titanium hand. The grid is powered by the grace of the titanium hand. Vertical waves powering on an offline equator. Vertical waves swirling inside color-coded numbers. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. Twitching fingers and tapping feet remain untamed. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. Vertical waves powering on an offline equator. Vertical waves coil around the axis. Running is a blessing, as refreshment is restoration. Restoration is the key moment of demonstration. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. The titanium hand types, gimme, 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 gimme the rest of all these years. This is called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-fallen wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a deer walking in the distance, while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache, humming waltzes and complaining about the distortions of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. This is a book I did in 2016. This is called Physical Copies. He detached himself years ago, spent every night this week with his face in his phone, or making excuses why he cannot come home. What is he looking at for so many hours? Where does he go? What is it that captivates him so? You respect his privacy, but you also have the right to know. Maybe he only wants the girlfriend experience instead of the reality. Perhaps he can only cope with false intimacy. Or maybe it just took this long to discover that his natural disposition could easily be described as unpleasantly empty. Maybe in his mind, he's only got 8 months to live. Maybe he's just too afraid to be embarrassed. Or maybe he only cares about his ease of convenience. You figure he can't even remember the memories that you treasure. You catch him glancing at you and wonder if he's recalling something he once heard Mr. Blackwell say. The more hardware, the less personality. What does he spend his money on? All you know is that he never has enough. And he doesn't buy the things he used to show interest in, and he certainly hasn't gotten you a gift in months. He doesn't seem to respond to your new clothes, makeup, or perfume. And then there's the most disconcerting fact. You realize that even the implants won't bring him back. Called Moonlight and a Dirty Tea Bag. This is a pretty old one. I spend my time in theaters, and when I get home at night, the plasma in my blood always pounds too fast, and the broken overhead lights can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, the night shows off your real feelings. The streets are chipped and cornered. There's a punk rock kid with black lit spiked hair, and a lonely mechanic who tries to hug his customers or something like that. The cops always fly past, oblivious to it all. We happened to hook up by chance. She was snake dancing through some guy's shirt. Our conversation had something to do with the Renaissance, but to be honest, I hardly remember her. We went back to her place. Her skin turned the color of a Dalmatian, and she laughed at me when I started talking too much. There were whistling monks in the corner wearing crowns of jewels, and I tried to play the straight man amongst all the cacophony. She took my hand and told me that it was all right. When we got on board the satellite, she sang folk songs all the way to Mars. She took my hand and promised me that it was all right. And when we got on board the satellite, she sang folk songs all the way to Mars. This is called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles in math. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours out onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. It's called Two Franciscan Nuns. Chewing mint leaves while crossing the Calumet River, the paper mill's exhaust pipes interrupt the vista. Mules waited with surge protectors, hairspray, and cassettes. A riverboat of morphine-addicted ghosts over there on the left. Two Franciscan nuns wanted to build a hospital, but settled for organizing games of chance. In their hotel rooms, they squeeze out extra acidic orange juice and excommunicate people with unpleasant names from the phone book. Two Franciscan nuns helped decorate an admiral in the pensioner's home after he'd misplaced his uniform. They blessed his pills, kissed his parakeet, and as he slept, gathered sets of his false teeth to sell at the swap meet. A brain with blood and oxygen is better than a fish who talks. What some people see as skin discoloration is in fact the natural pigmentation when viewed from the inside. Some newspapermen have always known this, and indeed have nothing to hide. This is called Should I Go In? The silver peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport, and though she never really shows anybody, I still know that she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach your toes all the way down and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and to remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. If I could talk to you, I will some more. Just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness, maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, "I still love Phil. I always have and always will. To know him is to love him, and to know him through his art was the single most profound way of knowing him." She was sad when they closed the gates up at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights worker's favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train, her earrings flashing orange lights. She waves hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles speaking loudly over each other at her grandma's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts. People with names like Buster and Dez. People with lumpy foreheads. People making sounds trying to hold their dentures in place while they argue about things like baseball scores, the cost of grapes, and which routes they used to take to get there that day. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Birthday. Birthday! How are we doing up there? Okay, good. Beautiful. All right. This is called. I used to know, well, know a guy named Paul. And Paul and I had all sorts of adventures. And, you know, youthful shenanigans, right? Anyway, I mention that for no particular reason. This is called The Rabbit and the Cowardly Wolf. Who cares? An angry, ingrown sore, spreading red and silently whining. The body? What body? Her body. Her body, a brace of muscle spasms in her right bicep, she'd observe her pet rabbit in its cage and skip past the turn-of-the-century print in her father's office depicting a fox hunt. And yet, just 1 block away, another rabbit sat in the passenger seat, horribly embarrassed as the cowardly wolf got a breathalyzer and then failed to walk in a straight line. But back to the unnamed girl. I think it might have been Amanda or Amy. When one's head is round as a bowling ball and smokes their shame and presses bare-chested on saplings in the spring at dawn for an unobserved tiny tingle before the roll is called. Clearly, mockery is uncalled for, and exoneration is at a premium. But we shall not allow for a violation of definitions, especially for one as important to this narrative as Amanda or Amy. No, 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 no! When the rabbit stepped down as the star of his own sitcom to attend to those personal issues there had been so many whispers about, the cowardly wolf suddenly was left without something to watch, emulate, idolize, sneak in a quick jerk during the commercials to, argue with, get enlightened by, surprise by, study, evaluate, grade, rate, review, proselytize on behalf of, display obscure knowledge of, and obviously whinge that it wasn't as good as the early years, and that he would know since he was there before whoever he wasn't impressing. But since no other show gave the cowardly wolf the flood of serotonin he craved so restlessly, he grudgingly and pragmatically chose to watch reruns in perpetuity. And why not dress it up a little, for they could be revivals, or even better, celebrations, a new institution, a part of our shared experience and ongoing mounting heritage. Clutter. Television was revoked. The rabbit and cowardly wolf decided to intercept their favorite actor's private plane as he touched down at the dullest airport you can imagine. The duo were hilarious to themselves. Is he wearing rayon? It's not like he couldn't afford Ultra Suede. After the actor greeted them with a few quick canned quips, he deftly inked 2 memories, and upon his departure the cowardly wolf chided the rabbit about mistaking the actor's autograph for a pictograph. As they later sat in the 50s diner, their root beers run flat, the jukebox unplugged by the owner. Who was that fighter who won a round without throwing a single punch? It wasn't Willie Pep. Which one are you? An afterthought. Welcoming back Amanda or Amy, he spent his first life as Alexander the Great's chariot. He'd get upset when his action figures didn't eat the cucumber sandwiches he'd made. He'd put down his crayons and say things like, "You're Arnold and I'm Willis." "No." "You're Mr. Drummond and I'm Dudley." "No." "Well, I'm Bruce Wayne and you're Commissioner Gordon." "No." "You're Dick Grayson and I'm Edward Nygma." "No, you're wrong. I'm Ryan Sandberg and you're Leon Durham." "No." "You're Keith Moreland and I'm Rick Sutcliffe." Amanda or Amy? I handed him my ovation, but it wouldn't play. Total silence. He gave it back, and I sounded like Segovia. He tried one more time, and it was like someone had pressed a mute button. "I see that you've just wandered in. Would you like to give an account of yourself?" The unclean offerings are an example of a permissive society, the long, thin membrane that seems to lead skyward. You are so well spoken, and none of us would have noticed. Reverse gentrification. The committee smiles, the lead lawyer holding out a pen. The rabbit renews his contract for his first project, a mystery called If Only You Were Innocent. Photographs, press conference, no disclosed details of the arrangement. He thanked his agent Marty Weber with a note and a fruit basket. The rabbit's people punched up the script with gems like, "Son, you're a born fact checker, right down to the letter, you motherfucker. I'll sell my secrets because I don't care." And, of course, only dogs try to remember things. Meanwhile, the cowardly wolf had disappeared for 4 days to investigate a garden. He had wanted to make a biopic about himself, but he couldn't seem to secure the rights. The rabbit and cowardly wolf slumped drunkenly against the back wall of their town, with only the moonlight reflecting off their wine bottle. Yet, neither the Harridan butcher's wife nor the laborer pounding spikes shall but feel the rigidity known in the necks like the mechanic's racks that feels nor floats a lodestone on the banks betwixt a bell end and an alarm clock. Do you think it's wrong to contradict yourself? Seasick. Since you are no longer allowed to enjoy a glass of water, the cowardly wolf mumbles a roar as that goddamn kid has taken his seat on the train again, off the rails with this wretched decade. Then the remorse, the introspective postmortem, the fashion, the architecture, the music, the media, the technology, indecisive broad gestures, sweeping changes of the subject, conflating placating terminology with warm sentiment. The cowardly wolf appears to ignore the news feed. Deeply flawed, archaic, downright prehistoric, dances over the line of self parody so often you start to lose the ability to tell the difference. An obvious, forced version of what he used to do so effortlessly. I really miss Amanda or Amy. The rabbit and cowardly wolf get x-rays together, paw in paw at the clinic. Nothing's broken. They just like the way their jewelry looks against their bones in the photographs. At the ballet, the view from the private box is undisturbed. As the rabbit relaxes and holds a bucket of carrots, the cowardly wolf watches him gnaw. They bought tickets using pseudonyms and are now wearing new suits with contrasting fedoras and little pasted-on beards. In between acts, the cowardly wolf yawns, "Must they always?" Which the rabbit doesn't hear. Then the lights go black. Cameo appearance. The rabbit bribed a policeman. The cowardly wolf crouched behind a bush, filming it all. While both are smart enough to accept that this is an inherently artificial medium, they can't stand exposition disguised as dialogue, or arbitrary structural decisions, or the limitations of the budget, or when some exec just wants to cast his nephew who just is trying to break into this tough industry. Amanda or Amy, I've always had such a high opinion of you. Save your dignity. Don't call the press. Preserve the essence of drama, the command, the show that intermittently ends and begins. Ah, yes. It's called Cheltenham Girl. Like a cloud, beautiful sound, standing before the signal. When the light shines on the ground, it reflects off the wheel. Parking lot next to the short building on the edge of the desert. She sees it's harder to be a number when you're just starting out as a visitor. Cheltenham Girl. Clouds can't create the shapes they make or hold onto any rain. Precious, temporary, holding no domain. No machines, no cell phone or computers, clicking through broken links. Credit card, social security needed. She will refuse to register. She really will. Cheltenham Girl. Every day, another wish, another mile, closer to the point where I can portray it. Until then, all I'll do is sing to her spirit. She will return. She will return. This is called Lazy Angels. Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white, absence of light, selling stories from her garden that she demands are heard, but is instead greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave and will. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophet steals the locks. Illegal son zero as one. Selling pictures of her dinner her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive and that we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any of the colors that we can imagine, and we can imagine all of them. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister to her father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more, a complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see. She hands her keys to a steed who gallops away, away into the orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Beautiful. Having some minor connection problems before, so we are going to do the brother and sister pieces. These were written right around the same time, but they were put out 7 years apart. First one is called Jade, and it came out in 2002 in a book called Radar Grain, and that's the brother, I suppose, and the sister is The Tide, which came out in 2009 in the book Communism is Grand. Hope you enjoy them. Winter went without finale. One brain with seagull emeralds and a chop of jade thicker than my wrist. Glancing became the transmission, like a doorbell whistling in a veterans parade. So behind the minute hand extends more than obligation and demands more than devotion. Passion is 10,000 tiny cuts, so untraceable they dye emotions without ever gracing the surface. Lightning travels celebrations and standing full face toward the stark light and thin wire sword play. Who's been saying in this bed? No one without articulation, tempo, and psychic extrapolative hysterics. At the break I am pacing, ignorant to stillness, shattering shins, pushing flagpoles out of the fields, locking engines to mortar, and blushing with inevitable glory leave. And this is The Tide. Swimming through the rising tide, eyes, 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 eyes. And we love you, Momo, Jungyeon, Gio, Diane, Sui, Chaeyoung, Mina, Sana. Did I say Gio? And Gio. Yes, Magic. Yes, Eve on the limestone magical entrance. The winds stormed around the asthma liquids and flying cost of yen. The fur was melting in an envelope, lime green irises bobbing in the water. Trying to pry through the quarantine line, topics of conversation overheard. Rusting Park, yellow shoots and chipped lacquer, birds landing on Mount Fuji. A dulcimer was plucked, floodneck papers rising and collected outside, crisp rings of flickering, crossing change. Numbers assigned in a fetal hotel, slow motion time to diagonal lights and backward directionals. Ceremonial silver displayed, cold crux of current torn by rain, and smog filling ditches. Spear thrown into the branch, limestone posts built on the marsh. Letters sent with smeared ink, walking through masks for photographs. The motorcade wasn't noticed. Flipped cigarette, punctured wrist. The tide stretched over itself.
Simulacrum. Simulacrum.
All right. This is a question that everybody will eventually have to answer. This is called, would you sell the relics? The general that only cares about tomorrow also expects everyone to echo the same expression, and when the general can no longer see the power of their influence, they try and exert control over any small circumstance under their command, while the brigadier general worries to no one if they need a transfusion. The colonel, who's concerned that not enough people's fingerprints matches theirs, requires a warning on the front page of each report, along with a summary cut together by a subordinate in a matter of minutes, so they don't have to waste any energy generating any contradictory thoughts, while the captain enters their coordinates so their location is known and updated every moment, which leaves the captain free to make discoveries like the wheel or gravity, then sell their findings to the executives or campaign staff of their choice, urged by a strong sense of benevolence, a tribute to charity as a force. And the first lieutenant's unmatched love of history is proven by the pictures taken of their parents with Goebbels in Brazil in the 70s. And the second lieutenant's jealousy shows and grouses to one, that's not Goebbels, it's clear that it's Martin Bormann. The sergeant major that reset the standards of esprit de corps doesn't know the panic they'll feel a few short years later when they are urged out of the way, or that they'll become stiff with resentment and resolute in their calls for punishment and institute measures to monitor how the company behaves, while the staff sergeant writes on a photo of themselves, "The future points to you," and daydreams about collecting the remaining virginities from the sorority house down the road, and they already have the names, ages, and weights in a frequently updated database, and then the staff sergeant complains about commercials before content. The chief warrant officer who breaks ranks to research the order the alphabet was created in gets rueful about seeing themselves age and attending charity events, funerals, and hospital visits, seeing their face in the mirror more washed out than before, wondering as they write their commencement address, who will even be paying attention in the audience, drinking from puddles, seeing what the sky says, not being able to read handwriting as children puzzle. And to the private, it's all an eye roll, and all so boring and shallow, to see another round of legacy shut out by an offhand remark. The private doesn't ask any of the officers where they should start. What's the matter where rebellion is kitsch and trauma is Walmart? The specialist greets the private. They each think the other is a dilettante. And later the specialist considers, what's the matter where you have 1,000 followers and not a dozen supporters? Would you sell the relics? Excuse me. That was the introduction. All right, this is Rubber Buttons. It needs to be kept simmering. And time should go slowly and finally. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swinging snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage. If they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows, they can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite, insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun and restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease with boldly seizing treasure. Only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects in soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to face the East End in hopes of repairing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds for them to begin slicing vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no crack deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin. Because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons that I wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want breast buttons for my cousin because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! That's all right. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plump purple terracotta blender with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it. Oh, it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites, healing, camping. The first person in the shower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles. Once safely ensconced up at the top, they can cheerfully sing along with anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly. They can think that they're in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's purses. They can wear a lei around their necks which contrast sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay underneath the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go! And now I recall other memories from walking around the castle, the theater in the evening, the movie having just played, seeing such a sensuous display. The humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other. And each new flower that blooms another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. It's all on top of my eyes. The curious sage and an orange and brown dashiki standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering. It's all on top of my eyes. 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 You don't like crazy music. You don't like rockin' bands. You just want to go to a movie show. Sit there holding hands. You so square. Oh, baby, I don't care. I don't know why my heart flips. I only know it does. I wonder why I love you, baby. I guess it's just because you're so square. Oh, baby, I don't care. You don't know any dance steps that I do. I only know I love you. I do. I don't know why my heart flips. I only know it does. I wonder why I love you, baby. I guess it's just because you're so square. Oh, baby, I don't care. Oh, baby, I don't care. Oh, baby, I don't care. All on top of my eyes. All on top of my eyes. Lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables. All on top of my eyes, in between her toes. She staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can. All on top of my eyes, the swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideas, stretching fingers. You did a great job today. Devoted. Seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder. One today. Blue waves sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements. As when water splashes in the sky, a maypole stands unraveled while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile fork tails freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! And that, folks, is another exciting edition of the quarantine stream. We hope that you have enjoyed it. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. I'm somewhat confident that we will be. I would be surprised if we weren't. We will most likely be back next week, of course. But hope you enjoyed also our wonderful opening acts. We love them. Wow, beautiful, and stickers. If you're watching and you did enjoy them, please give them a round of applause because they deserve it. And like I said, by the grace of God, we will be back next week. Let us hear the quarantine stream theme one more time, shall we? Beautiful. So yeah, until next week, everybody, stay safe, stay smart. Here's the important part. Stay free, because you already are. Got that? Yes. All right. All right. Like I said, hopefully, with the grace of God, we'll be back next week. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And until then, goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.